Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Villains on the Rebirth server. We are with our level 49 Mastermind at Nightmare Lass. It was just over 1,000,000 XP to go, so this episode we should end up below 1,000,000 XP. We are on a story arc for Ghost Widow, but if you watched the last episode, you'll know I wasn't able to beat the final elite boss, which is Lord Recluse, even at -1. So what I'm going to do is ignore that. We're going to start talking to Abyss. We're going to maybe do her story arcs. We're going to get ourselves to level 50, and then we're going to try Ghost Widow one more time with Recluse at -2. It's possible that with him at -2, I might be able to win, or we might end up with a final episode that ends up with a loss. No big deal. It's just a video game. So, I'm curious to know who the Abyss is and what she's going to have us do. So let's see. She says, I just got a call from a Cray contact. They have a lab in Paragon that's under attack. They wanted to hire me to take out the hero that's attacking them. But since I don't know which of the 50,000 heroes in Paragon City it is, I told them I'd have to pass on the job and get someone else. That someone is you. Alright, so we'll take the mission. If it truly is a hero attacking them, you might want to bring some help. So I had re-put the missions back on +1, but I guess we're going to go back down to +0, because if it's an elite boss, we may not be able to take him out at +1. And I don't feel like repeating these missions, for sure. Speaking of the switching the difficulty, even with -1, we couldn't do Lord Recluse. I mean, I guess he's designed to be super hard like that. Yeah, my guess is there probably is some sort of a trick to that mission that I'm just not figuring out. Because he keeps summoning bosses, right? And I mean, like, literally every, I think, 15 seconds he summons another boss. And you can't possibly defeat the bosses fast enough to beat them before the next one comes. And so I'm not sure how you're supposed to win that one. We got him very close. He was down to a little sliver of life. I think if we can have him and the bosses at -2, the bosses won't be a big issue, because they'll be basically the same level as our minions. Our minions will kind of be white cons to them instead of blue or green cons. And maybe we can beat him that way. I just don't know. I want to point out that I was using as much cheese as I could. I had given myself the survival amplifier, which is still up, the offensive amplifier, and the defensive amplifier. And I think I had even put in place there's like a, whoa, I clicked on the exit. I didn't mean to do that, sorry guys. But I had put in place the, what is it, Frosty Aegis or something, which is some kind of an element that I got from one of the events or something. Maybe from opening a Christmas present, I don't remember, but that was supposed to give me some extra defense as well. So I don't know if there's going to be an actual elite boss in here. We may just be in for fighting a bunch of white cons. I guess that's the way it goes. I have to say, I love this Mastermind, and I've really enjoyed the Mastermind, but I'm kind of disappointed, and maybe it's just my incompetence at playing a Mastermind, but I'm actually quite disappointed in the fact that this Mastermind seems incapable of fighting even +1s at the elite boss level when she's 49th level. I mean, there's no way that my Scrapper would have had trouble with +1s, nor my Stalker, and I'm sure a Brute wouldn't either. So I do find that a little bit disappointing, and I don't know if it's just because I built her wrong or I'm playing her wrong in some way. At this point, I'd say somebody, tell me what I'm doing wrong, but at this point, don't bother, because we only have a couple of beats to go, and I'm not going to change my playing style now. I'm sure there may be some ways to cheese things that I probably wouldn't enjoy as a playstyle. I know that, I think it was Kievar mentioned, well, a couple of other people have been talking about some things in the comments. It might not have been Kievar, but somebody mentioned when we talked about sets. I think whoever it was talking about doing like +4 times 8, and I'm like, geez, I can't even do +1 times 2 for a lot of these missions. And I think then Kievar was the one who said, well, the people doing that are, I said I don't have the sets, and he said the people doing that don't have sets in terms of full sets. What they have is partial sets. They get doctored wounds up to 3 or 4 to get the bonuses, but then when they don't need, let's see, we'll finish this fight and then I'll show you. When they don't need, so if we look at doctored wounds here, it's got 6 bonuses, but maybe they don't need the toxic resistance and the recharge time, and so they put 4 doctored wounds and 2 preventive medicines because they want the first bonus from preventive medicine and the first 3 bonuses or whatever from doctored wounds, and so they do it that way. And of course, they have sets on every single power, and they have all the right sets. And he pointed out you need like some sort of a build application like mids or pines to do all those calculations, because it'd be almost impossible for somebody just using their brain and a pencil and paper to come up with a maxed out build. I'm not going to do that, right? To me, that's not, I don't enjoy that. But I want to point out that my Stalker, come down here, please. No, I don't want my guys up there. One thing I don't like about teleport is how long the animation time is. I understand why it's that way, but it sometimes does frustrate me that I'm trying to like stop my minions from going, and they're already gone by the time I'm done teleporting. I mean, you can say what you want about this character needing the sets, but my Stalker, Tiger Shrike, was 100% exclusively single origin. I didn't buy a single set for her other than I think I may have bought the archetype sets, right? The ones that only cost reward merits. Because I didn't realize you could use the reward merits to buy the regular sets, so I didn't buy any of them with her. Also, I didn't realize until near the end of her existence that she had all those reward merits. I didn't realize I was getting some of them. If you go back and you watch, it was toward the end that I finally realized that she had all of these deck packs. I think she had like 16 packs or something that I didn't even realize she had because I wasn't paying attention. And so so she was on just SOs, exclusively SOs. And she was, I never had to like lower her missions to -1 and try to level out anyway to get them to -2 to beat just an elite boss. It's just, she didn't need to do that. And she was routinely fighting +2s with no problem. And so I think that, you know, you can say what you want about needing sets. My other character, Silver Phoenix, was on +2 ×2. She had some sets, but she didn't have all of them. And she didn't have sets, and most of the sets she got were like after she hit the 50s. So you folks didn't even see some of those videos because I wasn't allowed to post them, right? Homecoming banned the posting of them. So I think some of this is that I don't have sets and stuff, but I think some of it is either that I don't know how to play Masterminds, or that they're just not, I'm not as good at them as I am at Scrappers, I guess. I don't know. But I've been very disappointed. I mean, the general, I've not, no, that's not the right word. I've loved this character. I'm just disappointed that she hasn't been able to realistically fight at +2s at all, and that I have to keep lowering the mission difficulty every time I think there's an elite boss. I really think that shouldn't be necessary. And it wasn't necessary for my Scrapper or my Stalker. And I'm just kind of bummed that it's been necessary for her. And I'm a little disappointed in the sense that I'd always heard that Masterminds were basically overpowered. I haven't found that so at all. Now, maybe it's people who are used to playing blasters and controllers that are saying this, and people who play Scrappers and Brutes don't say it. But I don't find this character to be anywhere near as powerful as my Scrapper or my Stalker. Now that's okay. You guys know that I'm not necessarily interested in being uber. But I definitely don't. I definitely do not agree with the philosophy of Masterminds that says that they're like OP. Right? One of the things somebody said when one of my guildmates was complaining about how hard the Praetoria missions are scaled, the person said, "Oh well, you know, if you should just play a Mastermind and you'll have no problem in there." Like, I don't know. I played a Stalker. As far as I'm concerned, the Stalker is way more powerful than the Mastermind. So if a Stalker's having trouble, I can't see how a Mastermind wouldn't have. Now I got some Cray in here. So we're in here to protect the Cray. Do you think they're going to not shoot us? And they aren't. For once, they're not coded as just everybody hostile. I mean, if you think about Praetoria, one of the real problems and challenges for a stalker in Praetoria is all the ambushes that see right through your hide, right? They see through your hidden status, and you are not considered hidden to those characters. Well, they're going to do the same crap to a Mastermind, right? They're going to attack the Mastermind. You've seen it in ambushes. They go after the Mastermind and ignore your minions. So isn't the same thing going to happen to the Mastermind that happened? Wow, that was an Alpha Strike. And am I stunned? The same thing is going to happen to a Mastermind that happened to the Stalker, right? And the Mastermind is going to have less ability to mitigate that damage at like 5th or 7th level when they've only got 2 little mini minions than they can at a higher level when they have 6 guys and some of them are just beasts like Curly. So I don't know. I find it hard to imagine, at least the way I play Masterminds, I find it, which maybe isn't a good way, I don't know, but I find it very hard to imagine that the Mastermind would have had an easier time than the Stalker, who, when her hidden status is not active, is perfectly capable of being like a scrapper. So I don't know. I didn't like Praetoria enough that I would go back and test it, that's for sure. But I didn't really dislike Praetoria because it was hard, although it was. I disliked Praetoria because well, first of all, I didn't like the story, and I didn't like the fact that there were so many escort and ambush missions, and I just don't like those. And I didn't like the fact that all of those kinds of missions completely nullify the signature power of the Stalker, which is to hide. I understand what the challenge is supposed to be, but I don't like the fact that the fundamental structure of a mission is purposely designed to completely circumvent the power set of the signature power of one type of power, of one archetype, right? It doesn't do anything. The ambush doesn't do anything to a scrapper. They're going to attack you anyway, no matter what, and they're not negating your signature power set. They don't do anything to a tanker. Heck, they're helping you. You don't need a taunt. They're not doing anything really to a blaster because they're going to attack you anyway. But a Stalker, they're ignoring your signature power. And they'll even ignore your other signature power, which is Placate. And I don't really like that from a game design philosophy point of view, that they're negating the abilities of an entire archetype. Again, I understand why they do it and why they felt like they had to do it, but my reaction to that is don't design the mission that way. Don't design a mission that will be broken by one archetype signature power if you're not going to let them break. Either let them break it, right? Either let Stalkers break the mission, or don't do the mission that way. That's my feeling on it. And let's reduce defenses. We'll go after the Mender first, so that he can't heal the boss. We might lose some of our little babies here because these guys are pretty tough. I'll keep trying to heal them up. So in any case, yeah, I'm a little disappointed that even at -1 at level 49, with all of her buffs running and all the possible extras, like these things that I could possibly get, which aren't even really supposed to be in the game, I'm a little bummed that she still, and what's he got going? He's got some kind of invincibility going. I'm a little bummed that she still couldn't do this at level 49. That's kind of frustrating to me. And I definitely feel that she's nowhere near as powerful as Silver Phoenix. It's not even, there's no contest. And Silver Phoenix would have been owning this stuff as purples. And she would have done it faster than our minions can do it, and with less risk. Because she can't be mezzed, and her defenses are amazing, and all you got to do is pop a luck, and you're good to go. Now this guy's going to follow me around and be annoying, isn't he? He's going to aggro things I don't want him to aggro. Alright, well, yeah, we'll take the help. That's fine. Hey, you want to follow me into the Lord Recluse mission? Could use a little bit of help. Yeah, I think one thing that does disappoint me a little about the Mastermind, and I mean, I guess it's fundamental to the class since it's really your minions who are powerful, but even with them all running around, I've always, I feel fragile with this character still to this day. Even with our minions around, I feel like, I got to be careful. Whereas with a Scrapper and a Stalker, I just like, nah, I'm just going in. And with a Stalker, of course, you could just turn invisible and ignore half the mission if you want. And if you don't want, you can still crush the mission, and you can sneak up to anybody you want as long as you're not being ambushed and just destroy them. And with a Stalker, you don't even need any sort of stealth. You just walk up to them and kick butt. And I'm going to enjoy doing that again as a Brute. And there's another boss, and that's a red boss, so we better buff. Let's go ahead and give the yellows away. I'm trying to stack more purples because I feel like we might need that if we get into trouble against an elite boss. All right, let's start with the lieutenant here. Go. And I'll come in and reduce defenses. Oh, I might have missed the boss. I drifted too far. That's frustrating. Go against the little guys first. That's it. Good practices. And now focus fire on the boss. It's interesting. Oh, good. He went after the stupid Cray and killed him. That's what we want. That saved our pets. Did I? Oh, I did get him. You see the down arrows. I did manage to get him with the debuff. That's good. That's what we want. And he's frozen. Oh, yes, Curly. You are my buddy. Thank you, Curly. Good job. And now this guy's going to come with us. Is he a boss? No, he's just a lieutenant. He's orange, so I thought maybe he was a boss. I mean, they're perfectly fine following me. I don't care. Like, whatever. As long as I don't have to escort them or keep them alive, I don't really care what they do. Okay, so all of these are dead ends, which means we got to go this way. Alright, well, let's just go in. I think we're going to hit the Mender first because he's a healer. Let's try to debuff. Got them all. Good job, guys. Eenie, let's heal you up. Did the Cray guy come in, or is he floating around out there? I don't know where he went. Or did they kill him off? Or did he not follow us? I don't know. Well, what do we got here? We got another Mender and a bunch of these guys. Alright, I actually don't want to go all the way back, so let's pull them here. Now, to some degree, I definitely do a lot more pulling with this than I never did any pulling with the Stalker, and very rarely with the Scrapper once she was, into SOs. And certainly by this level, you don't pull as a level 49 Scrapper, you just go smack things. But one of the reasons I have to pull with this character really isn't because my minions couldn't deal with the spawn. It's more because my minions are stupid, and they're liable to chase somebody in the spawn into another spawn, which is not a risk you run when you're just playing by yourself as a Scrapper or Stalker. Yes, I sometimes over-aggroed things, but you're not relying on the intelligence of the AI, which is not very intelligent. So I just wanted to make sure, for instance, I didn't send them in because I didn't know if there was another spawn down here and they would have aggroed it. There isn't one, though, so we're good. So spawn over there. Okay. So now this one we can send them in because there aren't any other spawns around, right? So if there are no spawns around besides the one spawn, there's absolutely no reason to pull. Unless you have like an elite boss or something. But the question is, with these like ×2, sometimes the spawns are so close that they overlap, and then you've got to pull because otherwise the minions will do something stupid and aggro the wrong guys, right? And there's just no way around that. The minions are not super smart. By the way, that's actually why I failed the mission -1 against Lord Recluse. It wasn't really because he killed us off and we couldn't beat him so much as after he had killed the minions and I resummoned them. Somebody over there. There's Mrs. Liberty is an elite boss. Yep. After he had killed off my minions and I resummoned them, they were no longer focus firing on him. And he had summoned so many bosses that I couldn't see him to target him in the middle of the spawn and refocus my minions' fire. So they were just scattershotting, firing against whoever was closest to them, one boss or another, and they weren't keeping focused on him, right? Because if I tell Curly to attack Ms. Liberty and then he dies, when the new Curly pops in, he doesn't retain that order. And so I had to refocus them, and I couldn't. I couldn't find Lord Recluse. Right, Control Tab wasn't doing it because he wasn't the closest person to me at that point. And when I was trying to click on him in the sort of horde of enemies, I couldn't get him. And by the time I finally clicked on him, all my minions had died again. Right, because they weren't focus firing on him, and he was down to a sliver, but I just couldn't get him, and then he killed me. And also, you might say, well, why'd you ever deselect him? Well, I had to keep selecting my individual guys to do the single target heal, and so you can't keep them. You can't keep them selected. I kind of wish there was a way, but I don't think there is. I kind of wish there was a command where I could, like, I don't know, shift control. Click on somebody and have it like save that target, and then if I do shift control click, it just retargets that guy. But I don't think there's any way to do that in City of Heroes. It's sort of the way I don't know if this guy's going to come. Let's see. Sort of the way in the old like Age of Empires games. You could select a unit and then like do like Control 1, and then anytime you pressed 1 it would reselect that unit. If you could do something like that and I had been able to do that, we would not have lost that fight. But because I could not target him, I couldn't focus fire on him, so he was down to like a really tiny sliver of hit points, but I wasn't able to retarget him, which was pretty frustrating. Okay, so we need to clear these guys out of here. And I don't know if we're going to be able to do that before she comes. Let's see. Okay. Oh, nope, she's coming. Go get her. So now we're going to need to sort of... Whoops, I clicked the wrong guy. We're going to need to rapid fire buff these guys. Yeah, she's going to kill us off. One of the problems with doing the buffs in the middle of the fight, besides the fact that you don't already have the buffs, is that I can't heal and buff at the same time, obviously. Right? So, and, you know, the animations just take a finite period of time. This is way easier. Compare it. Way easier to fight her red than to fight Lord Recluse orange. Okay, so she has got, like, Unstoppable on now. So she's going to be a pain in the neck now. So let's give our minions a little bit of extra damage. And I'm just going to be rapid firing heal until we can get her again. And there goes another minion. The little guys are going to be really hard, if not impossible, to keep alive, especially with her Omega Strikes and stuff. Yeah, and then when these guys get knocked back, they take forever to come back. And dull pain. I was waiting for that. Let's see if we can decrease her defense. Yeah, and this is her, like, almost doing an exploit. She's standing in a place where my minions can't figure out how to get to her. So it's almost like she's exploiting. It's completely random, like, what the AI's decided to do. But it's sort of like an exploit. It's almost like she's being run by a player who realizes if I stand in this little corner here, the minions are going to get caught up on the railings and they won't be able to attack me in melee. At least for us, unlike some minions who are melee minions, our guys are ranged, so they can still shoot at her. Okay, now we'll finish these guys off. And there probably are some guys downstairs, yep. But you can see how much easier that was, even while she was a red con, compared to fighting Lord Recluse. And that completes the mission. Alright, we'll finish this guy since we started attacking, but we're not going to bother going downstairs since it's not part of the mission. Out we go. I thought this was in Paragon City. That's sort of weird. Alright, let's contact... Oh, we have to go over to her. Let's go back to the Abyss. Or maybe she's just Abyss, not the Abyss. See what she has to say. And she says, Miss Liberty was there, you say. I almost regret not taking the job myself. I'm impressed you were able to take care of her nightmare lass. She can be a handful, even for the best of us. I know someone you should meet, and who's our new contact? Another guy we're not going to probably do any missions for. Available missions. I don't know what you did to please Cray so much, but they asked if I could subcontract you to take care of this next job. They want to strike back at the Vindicators, Miss Liberty's supergroup, and they want you to lead the charge. First things first, you will have to get the location and passcodes from a longbow base to the Vindicators base. Okay, that sounds like we're going to be fighting multiple elite bosses in the same mission when we get there. We're on a story arc for her. So let's see how we do. I wonder if we're going to get into one of these things where I can't finish any story arcs on this character because the elite bosses keep owning me. I don't know. We were able to beat Miss Liberty. We could do multiple battles like that in a single mission as long as we, wait long enough for all of our buffs to recharge, which almost all of them already have. It's only a couple of missions, so as long as we're not fighting a sequence of elite bosses, which I actually did do once on Tiger Strike, and I didn't manage to record it, and she survived the first 2 or 3, and then when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm fighting multiple elite bosses, that's about the point at which I died. There's one guy I targeted him, so, oh, it's an elite boss, and I figured he had, lieutenants with him or something, and I just started pounding on him. And after I defeated him, I did a tab target, and I clicked the next guy, and I started fighting him. I'm like, wait a minute, this is another elite boss. And then I killed him, and then I tab targeted as another elite boss. I'm like, wait a minute, how many elite bosses am I fighting here? And I think it was a series of 4 or 5 in a row that just kept coming at you, and they came to you before the previous one had been defeated. So at one point I was fighting 3 in a row, and it's like just as I realized it, I died. Like the character died. It's really funny if you think about how, almost like a cartoon, like Wile E. Coyote, and the Roadrunner is in this big cloud, and he makes like this big cloud of dust as he goes off a cliff. And Wile E. Coyote follows him off the cliff, and Wile E. Coyote is fine until the smoke clears and he realizes he's in the air, and then he falls. Right? It's like I was fine until I realized I was fighting 3 elite bosses, and then I died. It was really kind of funny. It is a shame I didn't manage to record that mission, because it probably would have been fun to watch me. Like, I got killed multiple times in that mission. Because then when I went back in, I didn't... Is this a door? Yeah. When I went back into it, I didn't realize that they weren't going to be where I left them, and that they were running, because it was an ambush, they had run halfway up the boat. So it's like they were deep in the base, and I came down the one corridor, and there's nothing in here. And I was like, wait a minute, are these the guys? And bam, I got killed again. And then the next time, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for them. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I forgot to turn on the video, and I went to try and turn on the video, and I realized, oh man, I screwed this all up. It wasn't on pause, and I died again because they came at me really fast. And then I finally realized what was going on, and by then they were so close to the door that as soon as I got in there, they ambushed me. I think I died again, and then I finally was able to figure it out. That would have been a really fun one to have recorded. Other than occasionally, like last episode, it is pretty rare that I go down to ignominious defeat in this game, because I'm pretty experienced at it and I generally know what I'm doing. And I have a really good sense of my comfort zone in terms of, and by the way, this is really stupid because we could have aggroed those guys. We're just lucky we didn't. I have a pretty good sense of my comfort zone with this game and like what elements of the game, like how to set the difficulty, how to approach the spawns so that I can, that I'm comfortable with the level of challenge and with what I have to do to survive the encounter and so forth. I'm pretty good at being able to figure that out, and I'm good enough at the parts of the game that I'm able to sort of bias the mission toward that. I don't die very often in this game. So it probably would have been fun. Where is the stairway to go up here? I know it's around here somewhere. Come here, guys. There's somebody up here we gotta beat up. There it is. Alright, we'll just take out the flamethrower. So there was an interesting one on the D&D Beyond forum. We're getting into one of our final episodes, so we may as well keep talking about role-playing game theory. This, again, is a D&D example, but it could be for any game. And certainly I was thinking more of Champions as I was talking about this on the forum. So there is a version of the Sorcerer that gets multi-class with the Warlock called the Coffee Lock. So I don't understand the details of this. I don't understand all the details of this because nobody in my campaign plays a Warlock, so I'm not that familiar with their mechanics, and I've never played a Warlock. I don't really know a lot about them. But the way most spellcasting characters other than the Warlock work in Dungeons & Dragons is that they have a certain number of spell slots. These are a number of spells that you can cast per level. So at level 5 you can cast, I think, something like 4 level 1, 2 level 2, and 1 level 3 spell. And you don't get those slots back until you take what is called a long rest. In old school D&D, this would be like saying you get that many spells per day. And you have to make a campsite, make a protected area, and go for a nice sleep and rest for 8 straight hours. You can have dinner as part of the long rest and maybe sit on watch for 2 hours as long as you don't get into combat. But you need a nice solid rest in order to get your spell slots back. Whoops. Sorcerers are a little bit different. They only get a very tiny number of spell slots, I think. And the spell slots don't work quite the same way, but they are still spell slots. And they can get spell slots back when they take a short rest. And I guess there's some sort of a loophole in the rules, the way they're written, in that they get spell slots. They don't just restore them, they get them. So that if a Warlock, say gets 2 spell slots per rest, let's say, they can get 2 and then short rest again and get 2 more and short rest again. And if they don't use them, they can kind of add them up somehow. And so there's some sort of a combo with sorcerers and warlocks where you can use the resting mechanics to short rest rather than long resting, and you can basically get this insane number. somebody was saying you could cast up to 24 first level spells. I think basically get the equivalent of 24 first level spell slots, which is insane. Even like a 20th level character only has maybe 9. And they were talking about doing that by when the rest of the party is doing a long rest, you do 8 consecutive 1-hour short rests. Right? And so somebody was asking about, is it legal to do? And I guess technically there's no rule that says you can't. And one of the GMs came onto the thread. One of the GMs who was responding said, well, I would rule that a short rest is 1 hour, and then you have to do some non-resting activities for at least an hour before you can take another short rest. So if you sat there for 8 straight hours taking a short rest, it would be 1 short rest. It wouldn't count as 8 short rests because you haven't done anything in between. And most people said that's a reasonable ruling. And so then I jumped in and said, well, that's a kind of thing that might make me switch to the Grim mechanics in D&D. This is an optional mechanic that they suggest in the rules. Because a lot of people feel like short rests are too much, and that there's like you get everything back on a long rest. Like in D&D, old school D&D, if you lost hit points and you took a rest, you got like a hit point back per long rest or something. Now you get all your hit points back. You could have a 110 hit point character, go down to 1 hit point, take a long rest, and you're back to 110. And a lot of people think that's crazy. So they said, well, if you don't like that, do the Grim mechanics, which is you get a short rest. You can do 1 short rest a day for 8 hours, and then a long rest is 24 hours back in town. And so that would mean that you can't really do a full heal until you go back to town, which is kind of what old school D&D was like, right? So I said either I would go for the Grim mechanics, or I might just say no short rests. You can only take long rests. And so somebody, broke in there and said, well, and by the way, this is somebody who very clearly on the forums is a huge min-maxer. Although she claimed, I don't actually do this with the coffee locks, and I've not seen anyone do it. She sure knew enough about the mechanics of how to do it to exploit it to the nth degree. And she said, well, you don't want to ban short rests just because the sorcerer is doing that, because a lot of other classes need this mechanic, and that's true. But I said in response, and this is what I want to talk about, why would I be banning short rests? Because the players are exploiting a loophole in the rules to do something that is clearly abusive. It is clearly abusive to take 8 short rests instead of a long rest because it'll get you 24 spell slots. That is super abusive. It's not what the rules ever really intended for you to do. And, maybe the written rules don't technically prevent it, but it's clearly abusive. Right? Just like if your characters are in an adventure in a dungeon and the players take a short rest after every single room, right? So they do like a 10-minute battle, short rest, 10 for an hour, 10-minute battle, rest for an hour, 10-minute battle, rest for an hour, 10-minute battle, rest for 8 hours. That's abusive. You're not supposed to do that either. And if I were the GM, I would probably find a way to interrupt those rests by having wandering monsters show up or something because they're being abusive. And what I said to her is, look, most of the time when I ban something like that, it's in response to an abuse. I've already asked the players to be more reasonable. By the way, we're looking for passcodes. We haven't seen any glowies yet. I've probably already asked the players to try and be more reasonable, and they have refused. I've asked them not to do this, and they've insisted on doing it, even though they know it's abusive, even though they know it's making them overpowered. And so then, okay, if you're going to purposely be abusive as a player, then as a GM, I'm going to ban what's abusive. And I don't feel any apologies about it. If you're going to abuse the short rest, I'll ban it. If you're going to abuse multi-classing, I'll just ban it. Right? So, for example, because this whole thing is possible and abusive, I absolutely will not allow my sorcerer player to ever be a warlock. I'm just going to say no to him. Because it's abusive. And I said the same thing. If you're going to start abusing feats, then we won't use feats. Feats are an optional part of the game. I'll just ban them. If you're going to abuse multiclassing, I'll ban multiclassing. Now, it turns out so far, I don't think any of my players want to multi-class. They're all really happy with their classes, and so I don't expect any of them to multi-class. The cleric might multi-class, and the reason I say that is just because of the role play. I don't mind multi-classing for role play reasons, but I don't like multi-classing for gamification reasons. I don't like multi-classing because I want to get the extra oomph that this class gives my character, even though my character really isn't a warlock. Warlocks have patrons. They have to do things for the patrons, much like a cleric. Sort of similar to how a cleric has a god. You can't just, I'm going to take a level of cleric, and I'm going to take like light cleric because the light powers have the spells I need. And, well, what god are you taking? Well, I don't care. I'm not going to worship anybody. I just want the cleric spells. No. The cleric gets his spells because the god that he worships is giving those spells to him. Why would a god give you power when you're not being worshipful? So, yeah, I want it to be role-playing and not gaming. I know it's a game, but I don't like it when players are being abusive and min-maxy just to get that little extra bit of oomph. And the other thing is, too, I can tell you that if I started doing things like regularly putting them in situations where it was impossible to ever rest and they kept getting their rests interrupted and stuff, then the players would complain, oh, it's not fair, you're not letting us rest. Well, you're doing abusive things with the rules, right? Also, if you're going to make it so that your character, one person pointed out a coffee lock could have up to 8, in addition to his regular spell slots, could have up to 8 counter spells, 8 level 3 spells, in addition, oh cool, red boss, in addition to his regular counter spells, 3 or 4 that he could have 8 extras. You could be looking at somebody who could cast counter spell 12 times, and he could conceivably make it so that the GM can't really provide any cool spellcasters because he's just going to counter everything. Like, well, if that's going to happen, then I'll make enemies who have abilities rather than spells, and they can't be countered. Right? And that then means counterspell is useless. Right? Or we can use the rules as written rules that say you can react by identifying a spell or react by counterspelling it, but not both. You technically can't both identify the spell and counter it, which means you're going to have to counter spell blind. And if you do that, why is this pet still alive when its owner died? My pets don't live when their owner dies. And why is it attacking us and we can't attack it? What's going on? Are these guys... Alright, pets, come over here. We're just going to ignore this guy. I hear a glowy. Just go ahead and attack. Where are my other minions? What's going on? I guess they got terrored away from me? I don't know. So yeah, to me, if you're being abusive with the powers, then I don't mind being abusive back. Now, where's the glowy? Ah, it's right there. I love letting my minions fight while I actually do the important work. Feels so mastermindy. And by that I don't mean like a COH mastermind, but I mean like an actual evil mastermind. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to be abusive, then I'm going to find ways to negate your abusiveness. So you're going to have to react. You're going to have to use your reaction to counterspell without identifying the enemy spell. And then what I'm going to do is have it be a cantrip, which is a 0th level sort of baby spell. And after you counter the cantrip, then I'll have the character cast a bonus action spell that's really brutal and nasty. And so, you know, yeah, 2 can play at that game, and in fact, you can't beat the GM doing that, because being abusive, because the GM can always be more abusive than you. The GM doesn't have to actually follow the rules when he makes up characters the way you do. Now, I generally do follow the rules because I don't like it when the villains follow different rules from the heroes. You've seen me complain about that in this game. But I don't do abusive things as a player, and so I don't like it when the game does abusive things back. But if the players are going to be abusive, then all bets are off, right? Then I'm going to be just as abusive back. I mean, that's... And I can make it much worse, right, as a GM. And there's the glowy right there. Spoiler alert! Oh, we aggroed the guys from above. Man, we have been in the same room like 4 times in this mission. That's like really lame map making. They should have done something a little better. I mean, I know it's sort of procedurally generated, but it shouldn't be allowed to generate the same corner room over and over again so that you're basically fighting on the same exact room every time. That's just crappy. Right? It should have to, and the same hallway, I mean, it should have to generate other elements at least once before it regenerates the same element again. That's just really lame. So here's our glowy. By the way, guys, we have half a bead to gain level, so that means that probably in the next episode we will hit level 50. We will continue until these 2 story arcs are finished, however. We won't be gaining any XP, but we will continue until the story arcs are finished. What did I just do? I just clicked something. Okay, well, they're fine. I'm glad as we do this final arc that we are not inside an Arachnos lab. Oh, and some guys off to the side saw us. That's because my minions are stupid and they ran through the middle of the room. I'll be glad. I think I'm going to be very glad to get back to just playing my own character and not having to worry about the stupidity of the AI. At least except when there are lead-out missions. Alright, so there is the end of that mission. Got a clue. And the clue says... we got the Vindicator's base location and their passcode. Alright, so now we can go back to Abyss. I don't think we have her phone number yet. Oh yeah, we do. Let's call her up. She says, if I didn't think you had it in you. Color me impressed. Alright, so that is the end of that mission, and we're going to stop here for today. Guys, we have only 99,000. We're down to 5 digits. There are only 99,000 more experience points to earn in this game. My guess is we'll have maybe 2 more missions to do for Abyss, and then we'll do the 1 mission, which is very short for Ghost Widow at -2, and see if we can handle it. If we can, great. If not, we'll, I guess, end on a negative note. What I may do, if this next mission for Abyss doesn't end the arc, and we're 50, is maybe I'll go in and do the Lord Recluse first, so that if we can't finish it, at least maybe we can finish the Abyss one on a high note. I'd rather end the final episode on succeeding on a mission rather than failing. On the other hand, it would be pretty awesome to end the last bit of the last episode beating Lord Recluse. I just don't know if we can. So, I don't know. I'll think about it. But we got to get to level 50 first. We're 99,000 experience away from it, so not very long, and we will max out this character. We'll see that next time. Until then, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Villains on the Rebirth server.